Mike Patton has been pretty blunt about which bands he does and doesn't like, but he's sometimes had to tour with bands he doesn't appreciate, and it's resulted in him pranking them and also getting pranked in return. Today, let's take a look at 3 bands Mike Patton and his bandmates in Faith No More have toured with and pranked. In February of 1990, Billy Idol was out for a drive on his Harley Davidson at 8:30 in the morning, and he ran a stop sign at an intersection in Hollywood. He would end up colliding with a car, resulting in a fractured forearm and a severely injured right leg, which was broken between his knee and ankle. Idol would be taken to a nearby hospital where he would undergo emergency surgery to repair his forearm, and doctors tried to save his right leg, according to the LA Times. The 31-year-old woman driving the car would not sustain any injuries, and how he was lucky to have his right leg saved, recalling, 10 years ago, I would have had my leg amputated, but thank God the orthopedic surgeons and plastic surgeons have developed such a system of magic. Of course, being the great promoter he was, he would also throw in a plug for his new album at the time called Charmed Life. He would say, I think it's definitely got something to do with a charmed life, if you ask me. Also happening around this time was that Terminator 2 Judgment Day was supposed to start filming, and Idol was originally cast to play the T-1000, but due to his injury, he had to bow out of the role. Despite him bowing out of the film, he would end up hitting the road to support his new album at the time. One of the bands who would be supporting him would be Faith No More. It would be the final show of the Billy Idol Faith No More tour that saw both acts prank one another. During a Halloween show in Seattle in 1990, Faith No More frontman Mike Patton came out on stage wearing gorilla pants and what one writer called a Doris Day wig. There's been some debate online as to whether Patton was dressed as Madonna or Kurt Cobain of Nirvana. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, but I want to say because it's 1990, it was a year before Nevermind came out, I tend to lean more towards Madonna. Patton would end up moving wildly on stage, flailing his arms all over, and during Faith No More's performance of their hit single Epic, Billy Idol's road crew would dump 600 dead fish on the stage, spoofing Faith No More's video for the song. Patton took it in strides though, and he started shoving some of those fish down his pants, while his bandmates threw the fish into the crowd while finishing their set. Faith No More would, however, get their revenge once Idol took the stage. During his performance of Cradle of Love, a member of Faith No More, who was thought to be Patton, would come up on stage wearing a gorilla costume and started dancing with Idol's backup singers. It was during the encore, which saw Idol perform Eyes Without a Face, the members of Faith No More would walk on stage naked with masks or t-shirts covering their face. They would end up forming a prayer circle around the vocalist before, of course, bursting out into laughter. The LA Times would report that the police were called to make arrests of the perpetrators, but by the time the cops arrived, the musicians had left the building. No arrests would be made that night, but Idol would get the last laugh by releasing 5 miniature pigs and a goat loose in Faith No More's dressing room, who just happened to finish up trays of leftover food. One comment I read online from a fan who claims to have attended that Halloween show in Seattle claimed that Faith No More's followers were scuffling with Billy Idol fans in the audience, and the Faith No More fans were apparently going to the bathroom in the crowd as well. Faith No More was a band that Guns N' Roses had been fans of for a very long time, as both frontman Axl Rose and guitarist Slash praised them in the press. A few years prior to Faith No More going on tour with GNR, Rolling Stone ran a profile on the band in 1990 where they discussed getting famous and Guns N' Roses' admiration for them. It was during that piece in Rolling Stone, Faith No More frontman Mike Patton would say the following: "Our time isn't that much our own anymore. It's like living in jail, only they take us to eat lunch at the Ritz. When you see your position on the chart, it's terrific, but it's like it's happening somewhere else. It's demoralizing when you're supposedly doing really well, but in fact nothing has changed, and it's just as ever." The Rolling Stone interview would go on to reveal how Faith No More's record label had posters made up of the band that quoted the members of GNR praising the group, but it would be something that the members would be pretty uncomfortable with, to the point that they actually would go up and rip down their own posters. 2 years later, Guns N' Roses were on the road as part of their Use Your Illusion tour, and several of the openers they had for a lot of 1992 were both Faith No More and Soundgarden. The members of Faith No More were initially split over whether to accept the invite from the band. Stylistically, both groups were pretty different, but Faith No More had a new album out at the time named Angel Dust, and it would have put them in front of tens of thousands of people that they otherwise likely wouldn't have reached. In addition to that, Faith No More would also have the opportunity to tour with a band they respected, which was Metallica, who also played with Guns N' Roses in the summer of 1992, doing stadiums across North America. Apart from getting their music out to the masses and, of course, making money, the members of Faith No More also wanted to undermine the Guns N' Roses tour. In fact, Faith No More had been a band that's never shied to berate fellow musicians. In the lead up to touring with Guns, Faith No More frontman Mike Patton would blast Sinead O'Connor, Lenny Kravitz, Poison, and Aerosmith in press interviews. According to the website Faith No More followers, Mike Patton would tell an interviewer, "Basically, we're a small band. We are the hair in the Guns N' Roses shower." Prior to Faith No More opening shows for Guns in Europe, the group played the legendary venue The Marquee. During that show, Patton told the crowd not to even bother attending their show with Guns N' Roses, which was scheduled to take place a month later at Wembley Stadium. According to Faith No More followers, bassist Billy Gould would tell a publication ahead of the tour with Guns, "We haven't really experienced anything like that yet. This is our first time going out on the road with a band like that. We did do the Billy Idol tour and we were a little bit uncomfortable with that. It'll be interesting to see exactly how many bodyguards Axl Rose has. I want the inside story. More than anything, it's just something to poke fun at. Not to say that's what we're going to do, but..." Once the tour kicked off, the band's criticism of Guns N' Roses only went into high gear. They joked about frontman Axl Rose going bald, his girlfriend model Stephanie Seymour cheating on him, and the fact that Axl had his psychic with him on tour. They also criticized the band members' behavior with women, and they also claimed they hated playing stadiums since the sound was awful. During Faith No More's live sets, Patton would encourage the audience to throw garbage on stage, and it would result in Guns N' Roses crews cleaning up the mess. Here's some tension that you can see in an interview on MTV.
Old friend thing, sort of.
Absolutely not. I'm happy to see Metallica and all. They're a bunch of good guys. A lot of fun.
But having problems with Guns N' Roses?
No, they have no problems at all. Being treated quite well, actually.
Yeah, everything going good so far in the first part of the tour.
Yeah, everything went great.
Have you ever been on a stadium tour before?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. This last tour we did with Guns N' Roses was a European stadium tour. We did part of a stadium tour with Metallica as well. We did Billy Idol, Robert Plant. We're old hands at this, man.
Eventually, the members of Guns N' Roses would confront Faith No More about their comments on the tour, and they finally seemed to work things out, and the band continued opening for GNR. Then years later, Mike Patton would talk about some of the pranks he pulled on the Guns N' Roses tour. He would reveal he peed on Axl Rose's teleprompter, telling the interviewer, "One day I was just so bored, it was just a drag touring with those guys. I hate to say it, they treated us like shit." Patton had originally told reporters he went number 2 in Axl Rose's orange juice and sealed it back up, but he later claimed he didn't do that. According to Patton, he did a similar thing with the band L7. He would recall to an interviewer how he went number 2 in the orange juice that was being used by the members of L7. He would recall to an interviewer, "When you're young, things land differently. L7 were a little older than me, so they were like, man, f*** you, that's f***ed up." That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have suggestions for future tours, use the link in the description box below, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.